Do you ever notice how the loudest place on earth is sometimes your own skull? Not the street, not the office, not even the endless cheerful screaming of the internet. Just you, at 2:13 a.m., staring at the ceiling like it owes you an explanation. And the mind starts doing that thing it does, replaying old conversations, inventing new disasters, asking for proof that you matter. Because silence, real silence, can feel like being left behind. So here's a strange thought. What if loneliness isn't just something that happens to you, but something you can walk through? And what if one of history's most famous warriors knew that, because his greatest battles were never outside him at all? Miyamoto Musashi lived in a time that loved sharp edges. Japan in the 1600s was a country rearranging itself, old orders collapsing, new rules being written in ink and blood. And Musashi is remembered as a man with a sword. But that's the easy part of the story, the part that fits on posters. The harder part is quieter. Imagine him not as a legend, but as a human being, a man who slept in borrowed rooms, a man who ate alone, a man who kept moving, not always because he wanted to, but because stillness can be a mirror and mirrors can be cruel. They say he wandered for years, not the romantic kind of wandering, the kind where you learn the weight of your footsteps, where the road becomes your only consistent relationship. Because if you keep walking, you can pretend you're headed somewhere. And for a long time, his life looked like a series of victories, a reputation growing like a shadow at sunset, stretching ahead of him. But here's the thing we don't like to admit. You can defeat 100 enemies and still lose to your own thoughts. You can be applauded in the daylight and feel hollow at night. You can become someone and still feel unaccompanied. Musashi could end arguments with steel. He could end danger. He could end other people's stories. But he couldn't cut through the noise in his own mind, not the old fears, not the doubts that sneak in when the room is dark and the praise is gone, not the quiet question we all carry like a stone in our pocket. Is there something wrong with me that I feel so alone? And maybe that's why he kept training, not just his hands, not just his eyes, but his ability to endure himself. He painted, he wrote, he studied the small disciplines, the ones that don't impress anyone at a party. Because when you live long enough, you learn. The world doesn't crumble with an explosion. It crumbles like paper getting wet. Slowly, softly, until you look down one day and realize you've been carrying a soaked, shapeless version of your old life. And in his later years, sick and nearing the end, Musashi did something that feels almost intimate. He wrote a short list, a set of principles, not to win a duel, not to build an empire, to face being human. He called it Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. And it doesn't read like a motivational poster. It reads like someone who has spent decades listening to his own mind, and finally learned how to stop flinching at its voice. Now, fast forward 4 centuries. We don't wander through forests with a blade at our side. We wander through apps. We don't sleep in borrowed rooms. We sleep beside glowing rectangles that whisper, "Someone is living better than you." And we call it connection. But our loneliness is upgraded. High definition. Always available. Because now, even when you're alone, you're never really alone. There's always a feed to refresh, a message to check, a silent audition happening inside your chest. Am I interesting enough? Am I loved enough? Am I doing life correctly? And the mind loves this. It becomes a courtroom with no judge, a theater with no exit, a storm that keeps reinventing itself. We chase external validation the way thirsty people chase mirages. We sprint toward likes the way children sprint toward a parent's approval. And then we wonder why we feel so tired. Musashi lived without Wi-Fi, but he knew the same ache, the human desire to be seen. the terror of being forgotten, the anxiety that blooms in the gap between who we are and who we think we should be. Different century, same nervous system, same heart trying to find somewhere safe to rest. And Dokkodo isn't telling you to become cold. It isn't telling you to reject love. It's something gentler than that. It's a reminder that if your whole life depends on the echo of other people's applause, then silence will always feel like death. But if you learn to stand calmly inside your own company, silence becomes a kind of home. So what does walking alone actually mean for people like us? It doesn't mean exile. It doesn't mean pushing everyone away. It means this: there will be nights when your phone is face down, your friends are busy, the world is quiet, and you will still be there, with your mind, with your memories, with the parts of you that don't perform well, the unpolished parts, the anxious parts, and the invitation is not to fix them like a project, but to sit with them like an old friend who's been trying to speak for a long time. Musashi, near the end, wasn't building a legend. He was building a small, steady inner room, a place where he could meet himself without armor. And maybe that's the hidden gift inside Dokkodo, not, I don't need anyone, but I can survive the moments when no one is here, not, I am above pain, but I can hold my own pain without abandoning myself. Because the strange truth is, you will spend your entire life inside your own mind, so it matters whether your mind feels like a prison or a quiet cabin with a fire you know how to tend. And if you're listening to this feeling lost, overwhelmed, or lonely, you don't need to become a different person. You don't need to win some dramatic battle against yourself. Just start smaller. The next time the anxiety rises like rain clouds behind your eyes, notice it, name it, and stay. Stand still while the inner weather passes through. Let the mind be loud, let the heart be heavy, and remain. Because there is a quiet strength in not running from your own presence, a strength that doesn't need witnesses. Musashi's sword couldn't kill his inner demons, but his solitude taught him something more useful, that the demon isn't always a monster. Sometimes it's just a frightened part of you, asking to be held. So walk gently, not toward perfection, toward acceptance, toward the kind of peace that doesn't depend on notifications, toward the simple, radical comfort of being able to say, I am here, I am enough company for this moment, and the silence won't swallow me. And for tonight, that's a kind of victory.